In Project 3, we're going to take a look at some additional formatting, and in this particular one it's going to be the fraction. We're going to learn to apply the fraction format and the scientific format to selected cells. And if you want to read the bottom of page 16, that gives you additional information about fractions and specifically scientific notation to just kind of refresh you as to what the different decimal places are and different exponents and things like that. So make sure you review through that, and then we'll start in Project 3 at the bottom of page 17 by opening the workbook called Janelle Tudor Math Lesson Service. Maybe. I don't know what the LSN. I'm going to assume lesson. But anyway, and then we'll save it. I've already saved it as Excel Level 2, Chapter 1, Project 3, and then the name of the file. We're going to go to the fractions worksheet. Notice there are two worksheets within this workbook. I'm going to go to the fractions worksheet first. And you can see here converting decimals to fractions lesson is what they're talking about here. But I've got some examples. We're going to take the range of cells D11 through D20, and we're going to apply the fraction format to those decimals. So I've selected the range of cells already. And then we're going to go to the Home tab, which we're already there, in the number group. And then there's a variety of ways to get through to this. However, I'm going to go to the number drop down arrow, and you should see fraction at the bottom of that. Now at the bottom of page 17 there's also, if you go through the Format Cells dialog box, you can go to the category option. Let me just go ahead and do that. We'll go ahead to more number formats, and in the category area there's fraction, and then we're going to specify up to 2 digits, and I'll click OK. And that takes the decimals that are there and converts them to fractions, and then you may want to align those as appropriate or however you want to do that. Next we're going to go to the Exponents Sheet tab, and we're going to take the numbers that are shown again in D11 through D22, and we're going to convert those to scientific notations. So again, if we go back to the number group, go to the number format dialog box, at the very bottom of that list should say more number formats. That gets us into the Format Cells dialog box, and then the category on the left, scientific, and the number of decimals, we're going to leave that as is for 2, and then I'll just click OK. And that converts again those numbers to scientific notation. Okay. Then in Project 4 we're going to look at some other types of custom formatting, and the first one that we're going to look at is formatting cells that have telephone numbers in them. So in other words, for example, if the area code, if you want to put the area code in parentheses and then a dash between the next 3 numbers, separate the next 3 numbers and 4 numbers with a dash, you can have your cell set up for that so that when the user enters in the numbers, they don't have to worry about going to the special characters of the left and right parenthesis and the dash. All they have to do is type in the numbers. So we're going to do that. I'm going to go to a different workbook, and the workbook that we're going to pull up is Precision Products. And I'm going to scroll down just a little bit in this workbook. You'll notice there's an area called Regional Sales Representatives. And starting in cell C15, we're going to make an area here designated for their telephone numbers. So we're going to set it up so that it's formatted again so that all they have to do, the user has to do, is type in numbers. And granted, I know there's only, 6 sales reps here, but if you had 100 sales reps and all you want to do is type in their phone numbers using the numeric keypad solely for entering the numbers rather than having to go to the left and right parentheses and the dash would be very helpful, big time saver. So we're going to format these cells first. I'm going to select C15 through C20, and then again I'm going to go to the number group, and you can also click on the dialog box launcher if you wanted to do that too. Whatever it takes to get into Format Cells. We're already on the number tab. And then on the left hand side we're going to choose Special. You can see there's some other types of examples here that you could use, Social Security numbers being one. If you want to type in Social Security numbers, not having to type in the dashes between those numbers, you could set it up for that format as well. I'm going to click on phone number, and we'll click OK. And then the numbers are at the bottom of page 19. I'm just going to key in some raw numbers here. Notice it automatically puts parentheses around the first 3 digits, and then the next 3 digits it automatically puts in a hyphen. So as you type these in, it knows, computer knows where to put the parentheses and the dashes, which again, like I said before, is a huge time saver. Another type of custom number format that we want to look at is being able to, maybe as one example, be able to put numbers and text in the same cell. For example, if you had a group of numbers that all started with the letter P, followed by maybe 3 letters following that, instead of the user having to continually type in a P and then those numbers, we can set the cells so that it automatically has the P in the cell, and then all the user has to do is type in the numbers. So we're going to try that with this particular workbook. If you'll notice in the first column there, model number, we're going to assume that every one of those model numbers has a PD hyphen in front of it. So rather than going to each one of these and typing in a PD, we can set those range of cells so that it automatically puts the PD in front of it. Okay, so and before I do that, this is project 4B, which starts on page 21, but before we do that, I just want to refer you back to page 20. Be sure to read through that paragraph just at the top where it tells us that we can create a custom number format that enters values along with punctuation and text. So make sure you read through that. And then at the bottom of page 20, there's also a table that shows you what each of the different numbers, pound symbols, question marks, what those represent when you use it in the custom number format code area. So, and we'll use some of those in the projects that follow, but there may be some here, obviously, that we don't use in the example that you may want to use in real life. So anyway, just make sure that you refer to those and read through that. Okay, back to our example, we want PD hyphen in front of each one of these numbers. So the first thing we do is select the range of cells that we want to apply that format to. And then again, in the number group, I'm going to launch the Format Cells dialog box. Format Cells dialog box. And then this particular custom number format is going to be in a custom category on the left. And then what we'll do is in the type area here, we're going to put in, now again, I'm going to refer you back to page 20. Notice the next to the bottom description there has text with quotes around it. It says add the characters between quotation mark or quotation symbols to the entry. So if we want the word model number to appear in our cell, you put quotes around it. Well, in our example, we want PD with a hyphen. So I'm going to type in the PD, but I'm putting quotes around the PD and the hyphen. Okay. And then also we want to represent these 4 digits here. So I'll go ahead and put in the pound numbers, pound symbols that represent that. Okay. I'm going to click OK out of that, and then you'll notice it puts in, and you know what, I must have put in a space between there. Let me go back in there for just a second. We don't want spaces between this hyphen and where the number starts, and I certainly did. So let's remove that out. Click OK, and that draws the hyphen closer to the numbers. And if you wanted to center that, I think they asked that you center that in the column, so it's pretty easy to do that. But there's some other ways that you can apply this to same kind of format, this weight and pounds on both of these. We could apply the custom text to those cells. If we wanted the letters LBS to appear at the end of these, we could format those. Again, I'm just selecting the area that I want to apply the format to. Then we'll go back into the Format Cells dialog box, choosing Custom again. Now this time's a little bit different in that we want 3 digits at the beginning. So I'm going to put in, make sure you can see this, 3 pound symbols, followed by a space, and then we want LBS. And I'm putting quotes around the text that I want to appear. So I want 3 numbers at the beginning, and I did space this time because we want to separate those with spaces, I think. I'll look and see what it looks like. But all right, then we'll go ahead and click OK. Yeah, we want a space between those. But you can see now we've got numbers here. If it didn't have 3 digits, it's okay. It's not going to put a 0 in front of it. But it does add the letters after it, and pretty quickly, so you wouldn't have to go in and manually type those in. Alright, then let's scroll down just a little bit further in our worksheet here. In cells B22, B23, we're going to do a couple of things just to change the appearance a little bit. You can wrap text, obviously, within a cell. Notice how that's falling over into, or seeping over into column C. Same thing with the preferred carriers. We're going to do two things with that. We're either going to wrap the text or we're going to shrink to fit. We're going to try both of them, and they talk about both of these features at the top of page 22. So the first one that we're going to look at is wrapping text. We want to wrap the text so that it stays in the cell, but it'll take like the 25 and wrap it around in each cell. So we can apply it same time both of the cells by selecting them. And then in the alignment group, there's a button that's called wrap text, and that should wrap it in there. And then at that point you can do a couple of things. I mean, you could center that. I don't know if that looks any better or not, but there's ways that you could format that, maybe by increasing the font size, whatever you have to do to allow that maybe to look a little bit better. The other option that they talk about is shrinking to fit. So let me undo what we just did there. And the shrink to fit option again is in the alignment area, but we'd have to go to the Format Cells dialog box. So I'm going to launch this Format Cells dialog box so that we can see in the alignment tab here, text control. We're going to click on shrink to fit, and notice also the wrap text is in here, but it does have a button. We do have a button up on the ribbon that we were able to use. So shrink to fit here, and then I'll click OK. That does shrink it. Actually, the font itself is shrunk so that it fits. Notice they're different sizes there depending on how many words, characters are in the cell itself. So it adjusts it down to whatever font size it needs, which honestly that might be a little small for some of us to read. So kind of want to pick and choose on which feature you use. Definitely want to make sure that it's readable for your users. In Project 5, we're going to take a look at a couple of different things here. We're going to look at filtering and sorting, number 1, which we've looked at before, not only based on values within a range of cells, but also we're going to filter based on icon sets. So if we apply conditional formatting using icon sets, we can filter based on those icon sets. And as you can see too, we'll be looking at filtering based on font color and also cell color. So if you have a fill color within your cell, you could filter those out as well. So we're going to use a different workbook. Let me go ahead and close out of this one. We're going to look at the All Claims Insurance Brokers, and this probably looks familiar to you. We've had this project up before. But in this particular one, we're going to focus in on the liability limits, and we're going to filter out only those customers whose policies are between $500,000 to a minimum, or a 1 million. I'm sorry. The limits are between $500,000 to 100 million, and they have claims greater than 1. So we're going to do a couple of different things here as far as filtering is concerned. We'll have 2 different criteria that kind of have to be met in order for it to be filtered. So the first thing we have to do though is turn on our filter option, and to do that we want to select the area that we're wanting to filter, which will include our headings, so A3 down through I-20. We don't need to include the total policy premiums or average number of claims. So to turn on the filtering, we'll go to the Data tab and then click on the Filter button in the Sort and Filter group. And then by doing that, we get little drop down arrows that we can use the sort and the filter options for. So we're going to go to the liability limit drop down arrow. And again, remember we were looking for all the liability limits that are between $500,000 to $1 million. So to do that, a couple of things you could do here actually, but we're going to go to the number filters option. I'm just pointing to that, and then there's an option in there. I don't know if we're going to be able to see that, but it's between. So I'm going to click on between, and that pulls up the custom auto filter dialog box, which you'll notice here what it does for us is greater than or equal to 500,000, okay, and it's less than or equal to 1 million. And I don't think 1, 2, 3, okay, between 1 million. All right, and then we'll go ahead and click OK out of that. And you'll notice it's reduced it down. We have 14 records that are between 500 to 1 million, but we need to add another criteria to it as well, and that's the claims. So in the claims group, they're looking for all of the claims that are greater than 1. So I'm going back to the drop-down list, and you can deselect all these and then click on 2 and 3, but truly the most technical way to do that is going to number filters and choosing greater than, and then we'll just put in a 1, and then I'll click OK out of that. So now we're looking at customers whose liability limits between 500,000 and 1 million, and also their claims are greater than 1. And you notice there are 6 records. Next, we're going to look at filtering and sorting data using conditional formats or cell attributes like cell or font color, like I mentioned before, or icon sets. Now, I have pulled up a previous project that we just did. It's actually project 2 in this same chapter where we had applied some conditional formatting. And we're going to take a look at how we can filter by some of these icon sets, and this would be cell color. There's also font color there too. So we'll kind of see what goes on here. We can take it step by step. We may do some additional ones from what the exercise show. But the first thing we do have to do is turn on the filtering. So again, we've got to select the headings, A3 down through A20, back on the data tab, and then filter. Okay, now for the number of autos, remember we had placed an icon set on that previously. If we want to pull out all the number 1s or the black circles, if we click on the drop down arrow there, you'll notice there's a filter by color option. I don't know if you're going to be able to see all that. And then in the filter by cell icon, we can choose black, and that'll pull out all the 1s. And then to bring those back, we can either clear here, or we can go to the filter button here and choose clear filter from autos, and that gets back to the original one. And then also there's some font colors over here in premium, so let's see if we can test that. Let's first of all select, well, we're in premium, and then let's go to the drop down arrow, the filter by color. Notice there's a font color that automatically it picks up on that, which is very nice, very intuitive as to what's in that particular column already. So if I click on the red font color, that will show just those particular premiums that are, if you'll recall, this is the one where if the rating was greater than 3, then it showed the font color in red. So, but my point here is that we can filter by font color. Let's clear that out. You could filter by cell fill color. If you go back to number of photos, filter by color, there's the fill color. It pulls out all of them that have yellow fill color. And again, I think that's one where we chose greater than or equal to 2 autos. So you get the idea, though, that you can filter by cell color, font color, icon sets, a variety of ways of filtering. So that concludes Chapter 1 of Level 2. So feel free to go through the chapter summary. The concepts check is on page 29. And then, as always, I highly recommend that you complete the assessments. The more practice you have, the more I think you'll understand the features that are learned in the chapter. So, and as always, if you have questions, feel free to email me or call me.